All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Earlier, we did say that we're discussing the role of government in handling youth restiveness. We have with us in the studios 3 guests who will be taking on this topic. First, let's welcome Professor Yusuf Zoaka, who is the Dean of Social Sciences at the University of Abuja. Professor Zoaka, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is the head of the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja, Professor James Nda Jacob. Professor Jacob, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Okay. And Kieran?
Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired Senior Research Fellow at the National Defense College and International Peace Security, of course, and development expert. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and good morning, viewers.
Yes, gentlemen, youth restiveness grew within the past 10 or more years in Nigeria, and that called for a big question. It has become a challenge over the years. But let's begin by asking you to take a look at the main causes of youth restiveness in Nigeria, and I'd like Professor James Nda Jacob to start.
Well, youth restfulness is not just in Nigeria, it's a global phenomenon. The world is battling with it, but basically we are talking about Nigeria, and it is caused by multi-dimensional causes, and we need several phases to be able to deal with this problem. And if you want to talk about the causes, I think one of the fundamental issues that we can look at where this has become a serious problem is the issue of lack of education among the youths. One of the things that the government must do is to push for formal education. And formal education shows, the way that this issue can be dealt with. Character is built, values are inculcated through formal education. And if you get a stark illiterate, you can manipulate him. And then it can result to violence and all the social vices that the country is battling with. The trouble we have all over the country is perpetuated by the youth. And, the youth population is huge. The 2006 census tells us that the youth population is about 45.4 million people, youths, million people. And that is a huge number. And between 2006 and now, the Nigerian population have grown. And that is why we have this all over the country. And the government need to wake up and do something about it.
All right, thank you very much, Professor James Jacob. Let's bring in now the Dean of the Social Sciences at the University of Abuja, Professor Yusuf Zoaka. Other than the causes, which you can frame into your response, have we done a proper evaluation of the responses, institutional, governmental, corporate, or otherwise, to the question of youth restiveness in Nigeria? In other words, how strategic have we been in responding to youth restiveness?
Well, I think among the other factors that we could also discuss that has, contributed to youth restiveness is, of course, the issue of unemployment, the issue of poverty, the issue of, the fact that the youth themselves are not, making use of maybe the ICT resources in a very positive manner. So when you look at the impact of globalization, on the youth, we tend to, go for the, aspects of globalization that are not really very positive, maybe the negative ones. But in terms of the response of the government, I think the government has always been reactive rather than proactive. For instance, if you take the issue of the Niger Delta, agitations, until they started militancy, blowing up pipelines, and then government now started seeing that revenue from that area is dwindling, that they now came up with, some programs like the NDDC, to take care of, some of these agitations. And if you look at the strategies maybe that the government has deployed, when we take the National Youth Policy, of course, you have about 18 items in the National Youth Policy addressing different aspects, of youth, maybe education, health, ICT, security, and several things like that, that are supposed to be addressed, by the National Youth Policy. But the issue now is that, is there a properly outlined coordination of all these activities that are supposed to be carried out by different agencies of government? For instance, if you take NAPTIP, for instance. We have immigration. Youths are immigrating, and some of them are getting stranded in Libya, and their organs harvested, for sale, in Europe. But NAPTIP have already taken it upon itself by going out, and taking census of these youths and also repatriating them back to, Nigeria. I think if we can have, organizations working positively towards ensuring that they do their job, because when we talk about youths, I think most times it's the sports and recreational aspect that the Ministry of Youth itself is maybe focused on. But it goes beyond that. And when we look at it, also the kind of personalities that are appointed into such positions, you need somebody who is maybe a social scientist, that will understand some of these issues, or somebody who has an interdisciplinary approach, to these matters, because they are very diverse, areas, including health. We talk about HIV/AIDS and all sorts of things that, government is supposed to be focused on in trying to address these issues. But I think government is not really very strategic, in solving the matters, and that's why, we can see that there's an upsurge, in the restiveness. All over the country now, you have issues of kidnapping, issue of, insurgency. All these things are happening because there's no proper coordination. And you see, we need to also look at governance. If you don't devolve governance to that level where the people are living, and every small problem you're focusing, you look at Abuja, every small, but, within the communities, you can have some community, government, local government, which is already moribund, and they're trying to revive it. Then the state governors, they're in their own heaven. So when you look at all these dysfunctional, governments, because they're not functioning towards resolving these problems. Therefore, we're not able to, get, our youth to do the right thing. I think unless we begin to do that, we're not likely going to get over that problem.
Well, getting the youth to do the right thing. Well, government actually has some agencies, that could be held responsible for not bringing up some measures, that could educate the youth towards taking right decisions at the right time. But in all, as a developing nation such as Nigeria, there's the growing level of youth restiveness, which also translates into several criminal activities like kidnapping and what have you. And this also affects the social stability of a country. I'd like to ask Captain Sadiq to give us, is there any correlation between youth restiveness and social instability?
Thank you very much. At the Center for Strategic Research and Studies at the National Defense College, we really studied this phenomenon of youth restiveness, social instability, and its link with governance. And that is why in next Monday, the center, which serves as a think tank for both the Nigerian government and the NDC itself, in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a collaborative arrangement between the commandant of the ADC, Rear Admiral M.M. Kadri, and the Central Bank of Nigeria, is organizing a one-day workshop on this issue. This is because the future of any country is the youths. And definitely, just like Professor Zwaka said, there is a link between these issues, social instability, and also governance. This roundtable that we're organizing, we want to bring all stakeholders because we have heard of multi-stakeholder involvement in this issue. So many agencies are involved in addressing the issue of youth restiveness. So that is why the center is organizing this workshop where all the relevant MDAs will come. And
ahead of the workshop,
yes,
what were your preliminary findings and what were your preliminary evaluation results of approaches previously adopted in dealing with youth restiveness?
Thank you very much. Beginning May to April this year, with support from the CBN, the center sent a team of researchers to the field, to various states of the Federation, to look at this issue of youth restiveness. And it is the result when we found the causes, you know, the challenges, the policies that will help government. It is as a result of that that we are convoking this roundtable with a view, as part of our mandate, to provide, you know, possible and actionable policy options to the government. And in this research, some of the issues we discovered, as has been said by the other, just issues like poverty, unemployment, lack of education, even though I would like to say not even lack of education, even the quality of the education. Because when you say lack of education, definitely illiteracy will lead somebody not getting a work. But the issue also is also that of education. What kind of education? Our education so far is based on the kind of traditional formal education. But the world has moved beyond there. You have to look at non-traditional type of education. In all honesty, I don't think I'm of the word. You meet somebody who has finished secondary school, for example, and he tells you, I'm looking for admission into the university. What do you want to study? He wants you to help him. He said, any course we have, I will manage it. Now, this shows me a flaw in our educational system. It didn't used to be like that. At SS2 ending into JSS, the final year of JSS into SS1, a student should be able to know where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses. We used to have things like, what they call it, guidance and counseling, that will channel, a trained teacher will look at what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. Now, when a student enters into the university, he has not even understood what his strengths and weaknesses are. You are preparing a youth that is going to be useless to himself and useless to the society. He also talked about moral inculcation. It was Theodore Roosevelt who said, if you educate the mind and you don't give education to morals, then you are educating an individual who's going to be a menace to the society. So we have to bring issues like morals, issues like ethics, issues like civic responsibilities, which right now our youths, they lack. So at the center, we are hoping by convoking this roundtable, which is just one day, we will get the inputs from academia, youth organizations, all the relevant MDAs, so that this will feed into policy options we are going to be presenting to the government.
All right, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, thank you very much. But some persons would ask whether you aren't making some sweeping generalization about the Nigerian youth and the quality of education that they receive, and some of them, as you claimed, that they have no sense of what their future career path would be. There are some Nigerian youths, not many of them, who have a clear focus. And some of them are saying, look, all we just need is support, just a push.
Exactly the point. There are those that, by composition, that's all human beings. There are some that are structured to withstand all these challenges and still be there. And then there are those among those few ones who are from privileged background. If you are from privileged background, a well-off parent, a well-educated parent, there is tendency you will not fall along these lines. But again, we are talking of something that affects the majority, not the minority. We are looking for a society where there can be social mobility, just like late Malam Aminu Kano said. We are looking for a society where the son of nobody will become somebody without knowing anybody. If you took up the few ones, you are talking of people that go to highly expensive private schools mostly, those from privileged background. But the ones that has to go and farm, has to go and sell water before he finishes secondary school, and then enter university, miss one lecture because there is no money, for those ones, in all honesty, they need support. And these are the majority of the youths. If not these people, this large chunk of youths are going to be excluded from society. And as we see, why the center at National Defense College is interested, there is a link between this and security. If we exclude these people at a certain time, they will rebel against the society because there's going to be a fight between those excluded and the excluders.
All right,
okay,
thanks. Kieran, I was just wondering, I want to bring in again Professor Jacob. Earlier he was talking about in responding to your question, was talking about the causative factors of youth restiveness. It's easy for one to take a panoramic view of some of our social challenges. But when we interrogate our approaches to dealing with those challenges, what do we find? Which also leads me to the question I asked Professor Zoaka earlier, how strategic have we been at various levels of government, various tiers or arms of government in responding to what some have described already as a youth crisis, in Nigeria?
Well, I think, again, we should look at our country and ask, do we have values? Values are very, very important in dealing with this issue. As a nation, do we have values? I think we have a problem with that. There are certain values that are so key to saying that this issue is dealt with. One, the value of commitment, the value of hard work, the value of honesty. And when the youths wake up and see that the elders don't resonate those values, naturally they follow what they can see. People get the opportunity, for example, to lead. Instead of serving the people, what they do is self-interest, first of all. And everybody's looking for an opportunity of how to make money. And they see that the elders are not setting the right example. And naturally, what the youth does is that they follow. Another issue, I think, talking about education again, the kind of education that the government should be encouraging is technical education. One of the reasons why we have the restiveness is unemployment, but the kind of education that we have does not promote entrepreneurship. And we need to spend more on technical education, vocational education, where people can acquire skills that they can use in bettering their life, talking about the youths. Once this is not there, there's going to be a problem. Another issue I think that is key is parental upbringing. The parents must be there for their children and inculcate the right values in them. Because when the parents are not there and they're pursuing money and money and money, because that is the in thing for everybody now, you will find out that the society is going to be going through the kind of crisis that we're going through now, where the youths, are being used, for all kinds of problems that we have. And it's not just in one part of the country. The whole geopolitical zones in the country, the six, you have youths that have become militias, ethnic militias, that have been used to create violence, to murder, to deal with the issue of fundamental rights of people that have been deprived. When youths are pushed to the wall, at the end of the day, instead of contributing to the society, what they do is to create pain and problem. So I think it's a multidimensional approach that should be used to deal with this problem that we're facing as a nation. Like I said initially, it's not just Nigeria, but it's not just a Nigerian problem. It's a world or global problem. But developing societies, which Nigeria symbolize, have serious problem with this issue.
All right, thank you indeed. We may begin to categorize, the youths in this country. There are ones from very poor homes, and there are the educated ones. There are stark illiterates. There are literate ones who are also involved in restiveness. But those from a poor background are more vulnerable to overtaking to some criminal activities or the other. Now, the question I want to ask is this. Now, putting all of these categories together, we have one result, which is restiveness, irrespective of their background. So the question would be, what are those concerted efforts required to approach the menace of restiveness in the country? Because as we speak, these young fellows we're talking about have different thought patterns and different behavioral patterns. They already made up their minds on what they want to do, because as you rightly pointed out, the main thing is how do I sustain a living, right? Whether it's the right or wrong way, I have to live as a Nigerian. So I'd like to ask Professor Zoaka to take a look at steps that government should take at this point in time to see how we can reverse the trend.
You see, since you have categorized them to different segments, those ones that don't have education need to be given education. And that means you have to invest, in human capital development. If you take, for instance, what the Chinese did, sending about 3 million, of their own people out of China to different universities in Europe and America, and then that's why we're seeing the result now, that today they are advancing. Economically they're becoming very strong. So you have to invest in human capital, spend more on education. And I think that's what, every now and then when you hear ASU is on strike, what are they talking about? Funding of the universities. Okay, so if you don't fund your educational institutions and ensure that the funds are utilized for the purpose for which they are meant, because again, there's no monitoring, there's no any form of evaluation that is going on the funding of these institutions. You have UBE, you have the universities, you have college of education, you have polytechnics. Funds are being pumped into these institutions. What is being done with the funds that they get in these institutions? So if you don't monitor to see what they are doing, then that will be a problem. Then people then use these funds for their own personal self-aggrandizement. That is not going to help. So you fund education, then you also ensure that easy way to get people into jobs is agriculture. And then of course you have to stimulate interest, in agric. And if you can get maybe the ones that are stark illiterates back to the farms for them to find that, because an idle mind is actually devil's workshop. So if they are idle, doing nothing, of course they can easily be recruited for all sorts of, violent, actions. And we have seen that any aggrieved person, all he needs to do is just go around, look for, because any day you wake up, you go to most of these junctions. You find a lot of able-bodied men and women, so doing nothing. So they can easily be mobilized for anything. So government must also ensure that, they take steps to get people to work. So they have to create the enabling environment. One way to quick step is, what are we doing about electricity? It's not a joke. What are we doing about electricity? That could just take off quite a number of people and put them back to work. But if you are doing, so we're investing money and we're always claiming we're fighting corruption, but we're not seeing anybody behind bars. So you have endless cases, and all that. So all these things are, linked, together. And unless government, begins to do the right thing, and they can only do the right thing by showing examples, not that they will just be, you do as I say and not as I do. Because that's what we're having. People will tell you about honesty, about integrity, that they have integrity, they have this, but we don't see the integrity from the actions and from the way they run the government. So if you are saying you have integrity, display the integrity, so that people begin to see. And make examples of people who cannot identify the source of their income. You have all sorts of people, very wealthy, without any, business. So you cannot continue to have that, and then you think that you're going to we're not going to move anywhere.
All right, Professor Yusuf Zaka, thank you very much for your views. You said that you don't find people behind bars, on account of the fight against corruption. There are two former governors who are behind bars. One former governor of Taraba, another former governor of Plateau. A number of assets have also been forfeited. And I'm sure, you can replicate those examples. If you go, there are cases that are dragging on regardless, as you pointed out. But let's bring in again Group Captain Sadiq Shehu. There is a national policy on the youth, or a national youth policy. What, in your opinion, has been the challenge with translating the ideas therein into ramping up the well-being of our youth and thereby curbing youth restiveness?
Well, like it's often said, Nigeria is not short of policies. It is always in the implementation. During this research conducted by the Center for Strategic Studies, we actually identified some ministerial guidelines, that has to do with youth. So some of them, in general, they are good. But however, in implementing them, that is where where the problem crops up. That's why at the end of this, we are going to suggest practical steps of aligning all this so that we have synergy across all the relevant MDAs, and then with practical, actionable solutions. Let me please briefly permit me to talk about the solutions that somebody asked. At the center, we believe from the research, what we find is that another solution that could be to this youth restiveness is a society that is very inclusive. You have identified about 3 strata of youths based on their background. An inclusive society should be a one that aims to, to encourage political, social, and economic participation of everybody, irrespective of his background, irrespective of his family upbringing. Now, when you have that, you will reduce the tension between those who feel excluded and the people that they feel they exclude them. I will also come back. One of my colleagues here talked about education, technical education. We have to think out of the box. The world now is not about formal, certificated education. We are talking about, jobs now that have to do with soft and technical skills. We are moving from what we call white-collar jobs to what is now called new-collar jobs. New-collar jobs, they emphasize, skills. They have soft skills. In all honesty, we hear a lot of complaints. The people, yes, there is no opportunities, but even where there are opportunities, if you are involved in any recruitment, you find people who have finished university school, but they cannot sell themselves. They cannot write a good CV. They cannot write a good motivational letter that will make them employed. So definitely we have to look at that. Again, we have to look at the role of parents, the role of society, the role of the community as a whole. We have lost our values.
Captain Shehu, yeah. I'm not cutting short, but I want to remain with you. You just mentioned here that Nigeria is not short of policies, but it is an implementation. Yes. Likewise, Nigeria has not been short of workshops, such as the one you are trying to embark on presently. And what happens after workshops has always been that the communiques are never properly implemented. So is there going to be a kind of a follow-up after this planned workshop to ensure that whatever will be the outcome of the workshop are implementable, and that there are agencies, particularly and specifically, identified as the agencies that will ensure the proper implementation of whatever will come out of that workshop?
Thank you very much. We are not unmindful of the fact that a lot of workshops get organized, but nothing comes from it. But in this, I think the Center for Strategic Studies is lucky, because we are situated inside the National Defense College, where by virtue of our mandate, we have the opportunity of bringing top policy makers, and making available the fruit of our research available to them. So we have some leverage, which maybe other agencies may not have, and that is why we always seek collaboration with other MDAs to see that we make thematic research on areas of interest and fight. So we are not oblivious of this shortcoming, and we hope to tread a different path to see that whatever is produced from these experts, academia, and subject matter experts that we are going to assemble finally gets used as a tool for policy for the government.
My colleague Kieran and I were on the program yesterday, and we were discussing flooding. And one of our regular guests, Professor Adano, who is Executive Director of the Water Research Institute in Kaduna, expressed some frustration at the fact that even their findings and their reports on the flood warning alerts and what needs to be done, most times get to be ignored by the end users. That's to say, governments mostly at the subnational level. That's why I referenced earlier the issue of implementation of a national youth policy. The policy is there in the first instance. How do you take out the ideas therein and get them workable right down through the subnational levels to the community level? Professor Jacob, I'd like to have that response from you as your closing thought as well.
Yeah, just like Group Captain Sadiq said, the country is not short of policies, it's the implementation. And when policies are made, those in charge must insist that these policies are brought into fruition or reality. And the insistence is not going to be by the community. People are being paid to do their job. People are being paid to do their job, and they should ensure that what they are being paid to do, they do it. And if they're not ready to do it, they should be kicked out and let somebody else do it. It's not the executive, it's not the president or the governor that will do things that others have been paid to do. All they need to do is to give direction. Certain people are being paid to do the job, and they must do their job.
Okay. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being a part of this segment of our program today. It's been wonderful talking to you on this very important matter. Professor Yusuf Zawaka of University of Abuja, of course, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, we thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you.
And of course, Professor James Jacob, Head of Department of Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja. Thank you for your insights. And of course, we are not forgetting Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired Senior Research Fellow at the National Defense College and International Peace, Security and Development Expert. Thank you for your contribution.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.